Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for tuning in. You're watching The Urban Debate, and I'm Sneha Koshy. Let's take you through the headlines, but before that, our top focus really at this point is the extradition of Tahawwur Rana. What does this really mean for India? More importantly, is this a step towards justice for the victims of 26/11, for the survivors of 26/11, and for India? Is this closer to a closure, or what lies ahead? We look at this, but first, the headlines. 26/11 mastermind Tahawwur Rana to be extradited from US today and will reach India tomorrow. In fact, the extradition is already underway. Rana to be taken to NIA headquarters shortly. Sources indicate a team from NIA, which reached US earlier, has completed all required legal formalities for the extradition. Preparations underway at Delhi's Tihar jail to lodge Rana. Supreme Court pulls up government over road accident treatment delays. The Apex Court demands cashless treatment for victims within the golden hour, highlighting the loss of lives due to inaction. Ministry of Road Transport has been summoned to explain why top officials are only acting under pressure. P-Gate rocks Air India once again, this time on a Delhi-Bangkok flight. A man urinates on a fellow passenger. The accused later apologizes. Air India response says it has offered to assist the aggrieved traveller, but no formal complaint has been filed. The airline's standing independent committee will assess the incident and determine appropriate action. The Waqf showdown escalates as two more parties join the opposition to the Waqf Act. The Samajwadi Party has filed a plea in the Supreme Court against the Act, and Jammu and Kashmir's National Conference is set to challenge it with its own plea. The Apex Court is scheduled to hear all the pleas against the Waqf Act on April 16th. Day after Home Minister Amit Shah concluded his Jammu and Kashmir tour, two separate encounters have been reported in the state. Authorities in Udhampur say 2 to 3 terrorists are believed to be trapped, while an exchange of fire is underway in Kishtwar. Firing exchanges have been confirmed in both locations. Donald Trump says what only he can, brags that countries around the world are beginning to make a trade deal with the United States, and they are literally kissing his, well, we'll leave it here. Trump signals potential wave of pharma tariffs that could soon impact not just India but American consumers as well. Trump says proposed measures are expected to encourage pharmaceutical companies to relocate their operations statewide. US-China trade war escalates as China announces additional tariffs on US goods. The total tariffs have now surged to 84%, a dramatic increase from the earlier 34%. The significant hike further intensifies and escalates the trade dispute between the two global powers. Ladies and gentlemen, Tahawwur Rana, accused of masterminding the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks. In fact, India sees him as the key conspirator. He has been extradited from the United States and is likely to be brought to India earlier tomorrow morning. The 2008 Mumbai terror attacks killed 166 people, keeping India's financial capital under siege for at least 3 days, sending shockwaves across the country. India has been seeking Rana's extradition since 2019. Rana's petition in the United States Supreme Court was his last legal option to avoid his extradition to India, which has been rejected. Donald Trump, in fact, had said earlier this year that he must face justice in India. After being brought to India, well, ladies and gentlemen, the NIA will first present the terrorist before the NIA court and will seek the maximum possible custody. Remember, it was 16 years ago that he was arrested by the FBI along with David Headley, who later became an approver in the case and testified against Rana during their trial in Chicago. According to Headley, Rana aided Lashkar's plot and let his agency's resources be utilized for terror planning or plotting. It was in November 2009, under the direction of Ministry of Home Affairs, the NIA registered a case against David Coleman Headley as well as Tahawwur Rana and unidentified individuals. They were accused of criminal conspiracy to carry out future attacks across various parts of India on behalf of terrorist organizations, Lashkar-e-Toiba as well as others. Well, for the 26/11 attacks, Ajmal Kasab is the only convict executed in the case. Tahawwur Rana's extradition is not only a big win for India, but a step likely closer to any sense of justice for victims. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we get deep into this, there's a breaking news that's coming in at this point. Decks are cleared for Tahawwur Rana's extradition. Home Minister Amit Shah, External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar, NSA Ajit Doval have met. They have met and they have discussed Tahawwur Rana's extradition. That's the information that we are getting. Important news that's coming in. I'm being joined by Srinjoy at this point. Very good evening, Srinjoy. A big move at this point, even as the extradition is underway. And Tahawwur Rana should be reaching India early in the morning tomorrow. The meeting that's just happened, what do we know about this? Okay, we seem to have lost the line with Srinjoy, and we'll try and connect if we could. But that's the news that's coming in at this point. This is just moments, hours before Tahawwur Rana is brought back to India. I'm being joined by Srinjoy again. Srinjoy, I was asking you if you know any details of what this meeting is that has happened between Amit Shah as well as NSA and several others who are part of this meeting, and how is India really looking at Tahawwur's return, finally likely tomorrow? Srinjoy, you'll have to unmute yourself, I'm afraid. All right. We're trying to fix these technical issues. Apologize to our viewers. Let me just introduce my panelists at this point. I'm being joined by Major General Sanjay Meston, who's a retired officer as well as a defense expert, Pathikrit Payne, who's a geopolitical analyst. I'm also being joined by Rupen Doshi, who is a survivor of 26/11. Thank you very much, all three of you, for joining me. Rupen Doshi, let me just ask you this. How do you look at Tahawwur Rana's return? In hours from now, he should be back in India. He should be brought back by India. A terrorist that has been on the run, at least for India. He was arrested way back in the United States. Is this, I mean, how do you look at it as a survivor yourself?
So it's a mixed feeling, really. Anger as well as joy. Anger because it's reopening the wounds of 17 years ago. And joy because our country has followed the democratic process, the correct process that should be followed by pursuing it in courts and stuff, and has got him back, is getting him back to India. So I think that sets India apart from the rest of the world. You know, the rest of the world believes in violence at the first step. We don't even enter violence into violence at all. So I think that gives us an edge over the rest of the world, and that gives me a lot of joy, that yes, I'm a part of this great country who's actually managed to follow the process of law. Only issue is that it's taking too damn long. I don't think people who perpetrate this kind of crime, deserve so much of life. They don't deserve so much of, and leeway. The American laws, for whatever they are worth, so much of leeway, keep fighting in courts, giving excuses and all of that. So maybe, the government can step up on that and try and increase the pace to whatever extent they can. But otherwise, for me and for the rest of the 1.4 billion citizens of mine, I think it's a great, great feeling that we have followed the process of law, and that's what makes us unique. You know, we are not going to bomb Yemen or not going to bomb Iran or anybody else. We are going to follow the process of the law and get the perpetrators back. And this actually can be extended to the entire world, I feel, where, you know, we can solve problems of the world through peaceful dialogue. All these expansionist ideas that some of these dictators have just don't work in this day and age. So I think in that sense, India most of the time follows this procedure. You know, first got Ajmal Kasab, now we got this guy. So you know, as a Mumbaikar and somebody who suffered this, I really feel that, you know, Jai Ho for Jai Hind, because we are really ahead of the rest, and it's a great, great feeling. It's also a feeling of slight superiority, and I hope that that superiority can be extended to solving the problems of our millions, you know. So it's nothing isolated, you know, it's always to do with our lives in toto. You know, one terrorist attack actually woke us up completely. So I think that, you know, these are the lessons that we have to learn. And at least some individuals have learned these lessons. But as a nation, as a people, if we learn this lesson, as government, if they know that, yes, now, you know, we can't take life for granted. We can't take the country and its people for granted. And let's do better. You know, this is no comment on the government, but I'm saying let's do better and better for our people, for the simple reason that we are capable.
All right. Okay. Major General Sanjay Meston, to you next. Major General, how do you look at this? I mean, it's a big win for India. This is a case that has been pursued relentlessly. Not only were FIRs filed long time back, but from 2019 at least, there have been attempts to get him extradited. Finally, years later, 2025, you have something of that sort which is already underway right now, Major General Sanjay Meston. How is this being looked at for India?
Yeah, obviously for India, it's a great victory, and also a victory for the National Investigative Agency, and of course the Mumbai Police, who was the first point of contact, and also the National Security Guards. They had done a fantastic job. So it's a big win for the entire country, big win for diplomacy. Everyone has the administrative machinery of the country had been geared up. This case had been going on since 2010. But in the last few years, I think there has been tremendous impetus given by the government of India under the Prime Minister leadership. And I think we have been able to achieve it. Secondly, I think now it is high time that we need to connect the dots. After all, that is the most important, because lessons have to be also drawn. But the first dot is this gentleman, firstly, he was a Pakistan Army officer who was serving in the medical corps as a doctor for 7 years. And obviously the Pakistan ISI and the LET supporters had sent him to Canada, and from there he got the citizenship, and thereafter he was working in the United States also. First and foremost point is, how was this person given the visa by the Indian embassy based in Canada? That is the first foremost step to be found out, because there are detailed and deep checks in the embassies for anyone, any foreigner who's coming to visit India. And obviously all his background knowledge is there, that he was a Pakistan Army officer and whatever. So someone has been involved in the system. Those people who have been involved in the system needs to be held accountable. Number two, the fact of the matter is that he came and stayed in Mumbai. He has done the detailed reconnaissance of the National Defence Academy. He's also done of the National Defence College and the Indian Military Academy and so many other places. How was he staying there? Who were the Indian sympathizers? They have to be caught now, because it's a big racket. Pakistan, yes, LET and ISI was sponsoring it from their territory, but in the Indian territory, who were his helpers? How was he communicating? Who helped him to get the mobile network, mobile communication? After all, anyone who comes, he has his own mobile number. So that means some Indians have helped him with a different mobile number. All those details have to be checked, because this is what exactly we are looking. Of course, his credentials in Pakistan are well known. The Pakistan network, we will find out in more detail. But more important than that is his lodging, his assistance, people have given him money, all these kind of things, communication network. How was he staying here? How did he manage to enter India? So that is another thing.
But here's the thing, Major General. I mean, it shouldn't have taken all these years to be able to figure what you're asking. I understand he would possibly be part of a huge level of evidence for that matter and the testimonies that may emerge eventually. But it shouldn't be taking so many years to be able to figure these questions out.
No, very, very true. Because now we are getting the chance to do a detailed interrogation. Now we have to take him to the sites, everything. So I think these dots will emerge. Yes, I must state very, very candidly that somewhere we have lacked in finding all these details. See, but details can only be ascertained once you hold the main culprit. The main culprit is in our hands now. So now we have to do a detailed investigation. How did he come? Who was assisting them? How was he staying? How did he do the recce? Who was giving him the vehicles? The communication, everything will be found out. Because nothing can happen in our country without pro-Indian sympathizers who are sympathizing with Pakistan, ISI and the LET network. So that those points have to be found out. I think those dots have to be connected. And thereafter, there are so many other things to be found out. How was he communicating and how was the attacks planned, everything. Who were his Pakistan handlers. But I would say more important than the Pakistan handlers. See, Pakistan hand is always known. But most important is who are the Indian handlers, Indian sympathizers. I think that is what we have to stress on. And if that we can break it, I think that will be the biggest win for India because it will send a future message to any Indian. They cannot sympathize with any terrorist and go against our own people. 166 Indians and foreigners were killed. It is because of some of our own people who are definitely involved in this. That has to be found out by the NIA. In fact, the start point is who gave him the visa. Since he was a Pakistan Army officer, today I know.
No, I think valid questions, but you know, it's just a repeat mode from what we remember. These were the questions literally that were raised even several years ago when you had the entire Kasab's issue being debated, when you had the attacks that really happened, eventually the whole quest for justice. These questions have time and again been repeated, and it's extremely hurtful, to say the least, that we've not been able to figure these answers out yet. Pathikrit Payne, if I can get you in at this point, you know, while this means a lot for India, and, you know, I think it'll be best to ask Rupen Doshi about whether this really brings in any sense of closure or justice for him, and I'll get to asking him that in a bit. But Pathikrit Payne, my question really is, remember, all of this is happening at Pakistan seems to be in a very unstable condition. It's being targeted from within and from outside. Many people are saying it's getting a taste of its own medicine. Geopolitics has changed for that matter, whether it be global south or with what's happening in United States. What does this really mean? Because for India, the whole LET angle, the terror angle linked to Pakistan, is a stand that India has very strongly taken right from the beginning, saying that the world has not opposed it strong enough.
Well, Sneha, first of all, for India, it's just work in progress. There is no sense of closure when you are fighting organized terrorism. And let me tell you, you cannot defeat organized terrorism with dialogue. In the last 10 years, if the incidence of terrorism has come down in India, it's because a lot of work has been done behind the curtain by the government of India, which we should not probably talk about. Secondly, you know, when it comes to the issues of Pakistan, I think I mean, I don't care what happens to Pakistan, but the reality is, in spite of all the geopolitical upheaval, whatever is happening there is, you know, the non-state actors are there, the non-state actors are present, and let's not put the finger only on Pakistan. I mean, I'm not trying to be a devil's advocate for Pakistan. Pakistan is a known sponsor of terrorism. We must understand, we must remember this person, Tahawwur Hussain Rana, was a mastermind. He was not a foot soldier, but he was also the wingman of David Headley. He was the wingman of David Headley. He was working on behalf of David Headley, who was the real mastermind. In the last 15 years, United States have not given our country access to David Headley for any kind of interrogation. And you will not be able to even extradite David Headley. So the issue is this, that David Headley was actually a double agent. He was working for LET and he was working for somebody else at the same time. And because of this, United States is very cagey in terms of, you know, allowing extradition. You will never get extradition of David Headley for several reasons, and I'm sure government of India is pretty well aware of that. But I strongly agree with what Sanjay Meston just stated. It was known, and it is still today known, that there were more than 10 people. The apprehensions were already there. Why it is important, in spite of all of the fact that the government knows a lot of things, is that the first-hand testimony is required when it comes to starting the trial. Second, there are a lot of loopholes on which, we can have another discussion. That has to be taken care of when it comes to internal security. Even today, let me just say it, you have an open Indo-Nepal border and a porous Indo-Bangladesh border. There are many terror attacks in India. You will have a Nepal link being conveniently used by Pakistan. So you need a critical infrastructure protection act. You need a national border policy. You need to invest far more on last mile policing. The local police station is the first respondent, but that is the least equipped when it comes to dealing with a terror attack or organized violence. So I think the arrest of this person will open up a lot of things which probably maybe is known, but will add to it. And last but not the least, we sincerely hope, I have the greatest of respect for the victims and, survivors of 26/11. I would consider partial closure of it the day this man is hanged. And I hope it doesn't take another 15 years in our judicial process. If it takes another 15 to 20 years, then we should not blame United States for taking 15 years to extradite him, because they will tell that, look, in any case, you take 15 years for a trial to be concluded. So we hope that doesn't happen. The entire legal system when it comes to fighting terrorism has to be such that you need a closure within 2-3 years. Otherwise, what's the point? By that time, unfortunately, sadly, most of even the
in fact, let me just take this question to Doshi, in fact.
Yes.
In fact, Rupen Doshi, do you want to respond to what Pathikrit Payne is saying? He's saying, this whole process itself is so prolonged, it's so long that it defeats the purpose of justice. Do you see this as a step closer to possibly any justice or a closure whatsoever?
Neither. There's no closure and there's no sense of justice. But it's heartening to note that the government actually is moving forward on this very, very sincerely. And this is nothing to, for or against any government, this one or the earlier one or whatever. So nothing to do with government. But I'm saying the people of India are actually happy that this is happening. And like I said earlier, it's happening in the right way. We didn't break any laws. We didn't, try and force our way or make a deal with the United States that, give us this guy and we'll give you something else. None of that. So, of course, it's very, very heartening to know, and it's a big relief, because at the end of the day, in our kind of country, big brother is government, right? Even though we may be financially independent and doing our own number, big brother is taking care of most of us. So I think it's very, very heartening to know.
All right. Okay. Major General Sanjay, if I can ask you this, let's face the facts at this point, and Pathikrit Payne also raised this, Major General, that David Headley is not somebody you will ever get access to. You're never going to get him extradited. If that's the thing that we are looking at, of course, it means a lot that Tahawwur Rana is being brought back. A lot of effort has gone behind it. But is this going to be an incomplete chapter in a long drawn journey towards justice or closure? At the end of the day, you have Kasab, and now you have possibly Tahawwur Rana, and we don't know anything else. And there's another person who was named as an aide. He's in the jail. But besides that, no clue.
See, definitely what I feel, the way this case has come up in the last few years, and the media has taken a very prompt and a bold action to reflect about this case, I think Government of India and the National Investigative Agency would do extremely well now to go into minute details of the case and connect all the dots and try to bring to justice every possible person. Of course, the Pakistanis who are there, they will never be handed over by Pakistan. We are lucky that this person was in US, and that is why the extradition has taken place. So, yes, people who have been caught, they definitely now need to be not only put behind bars, he's already behind bars, but more important is, when the case is closed, he has to go to the gallows. Further people we can't get. No, those are the harsh realities. But what I would like to say, that another thing which now we need to consider is that Pakistan's stated strategy is very clear. They want to destabilize India. And now they are also roping in Bangladesh. So what does this imply? This implies that Pakistan will continue to play its game of terrorism. What should India do? Either we keep blaming Pakistan, he is the enemy. He has declared it that he will continue to resort to that. So we have to tighten up our borders. Our intelligence has to be given the topmost priority. Number two is, there are borders, the Indo-Nepal border, etc., and the Indo-Bangladesh border. They need to be geared up. How that one lady had walked up with 4 children through Nepal undetected, and she was finally detected by some lawyer in Noida. So what I'm trying to say is that...
In fact, there are several such cases. Right.
Sorry? Yeah, so
there have been several such cases as you've been mentioning, but I'm very short on time, sir. Very quickly, let me just take the last remark from Pathikrit Payne. Pathikrit Payne, does this change the prism from which the world looks at Pakistan and similar entities? Does anything change, particularly with a trial that's going to be very closely watched internationally as well?
No, Sneha, nothing changes. There is no definition of terrorism as per United Nations. The United States and the Western countries will have countries like Pakistan to be used as a dispensable commodity for terror attack and everything else whenever it is convenient. The harsh reality is you have to fight your own war. You have to defend yourself. Do not expect anything from anyone else. And I reiterate, I must say it with the greatest of respect. No one should presume that terrorism is being fought with peace and dialogue. It cannot be. Even during the 26/11 terror attack, energy had to be sent not with flowers, but with assault rifles to fight it out. So there are people dying every day to actually defend this country. There are men in uniform dying, and therefore the presumption that dialogue is the best way, we are doing it peacefully, please come out of that illusion. There are people giving up their bloods. There are children losing their fathers for the sake of keeping this country alive and stable. And do not expect anyone to do anything. I must reiterate, all credit goes to Modi government for making this impossible task possible, that he got extradited. Otherwise, it was near impossible.
Hopefully, this will be just one chapter and there'll be many more that will unfold, because justice and closure is hugely important, and India's messaging for a massive, ghastly terror attack such as what happened on 26/11 needs a very strong messaging as well. Thank you very much, Major General Sanjay Meston. Thank you very much for joining us. Pathikrit Payne, thank you very much for joining us. And of course, Rupen Doshi ji, thank you so much for your time. It's time for a very short break. On the other side, news and updates.